Challenger. It is freezing in Florida the morning Seth and his mom take Diego out to see the shuttle launch at Kennedy Space Center. As mommy pulls the skull cap down over his head, Diego asks her why they even moved to Florida if they had to wear coats and hats and could still see their breath in the air. She just shakes her head as she pats his. This should be a real treat for Diego, mommy says as she drops him off across the street at Seth's house before heading to work. Seth's house is Diego's usual morning pit stop anyway, since he and Seth walk together to and from Mrs. Hillary's sixth grade class at Stone Junior High. Oh, I think they'll have a good time, Miss Yvonne responds in a drawl still foreign to Diego's ears, her arm around Seth's shoulder. Seth smiles. Yeah, D, it's gonna be rad. You D now? Mommy asks, a smirk on her face. Diego sucks his teeth. Mommy. Fine, D, Mommy says, trying to hold in a laugh. Have a good time. Bye, Miss Anna, Seth says as she walks back across the street towards her car. They watch her as she gets in and waves, the mittens on her hands glowing red in the bright but frigid sun. All right, boys, let's have some pancakes and then head on out to Cape Kennedy, Miss Yvonne says, motioning the boys towards the kitchen and the pancakes. It's Cape Canaveral, Ma. Boy, hush. Soon the three are off in Miss Yvonne's burgundy Buick Regal, coursing across the Indian River, the two boys in the limitless back seat, happy to be out of school for the day. The Pointer Sisters sing about the neutron dance while Diego is lost in the flatness of the water and the buildings and houses on either side of the waterway that look like they float on the surface. Diego likes how the car bobs up and down as they cross the seams of the causeway. How come it's so cold down here? Diego asks nobody in particular. Because sometimes cold fronts come down from the north and bring real cold, dry air, but it doesn't happen a lot, only sometimes. Diego looks over at Seth, who's looking back at him with eyebrows raised and nodding his head as if to say, for real. Okay, Diego says, not exactly sure of what a cold front is and not wanting to seem dumb in front of Seth. Seth reads a lot of books because his mother is a librarian. He wants to join Pee Wee football in the spring and wants Diego to join with him. Diego really doesn't want to play football because it would remind him of Pops, but Seth gets so hyped when he talks about playing on a team that Diego might try it out anyway. He likes that Seth is into sports and school. He knows that Seth's kind of a nerd, but whatever. Playing football might be cool. Ma, can D stay over after we get back and play Nintendo? I don't know, baby. He'll have to ask his mama. D, Seth started, you ever see a space shuttle before? Diego shakes his head, not wanting to actually say no and seem dumb in front of Seth. It's the best. There's this huge big old red thing called an external fuel tank where they keep the extra gas, and it's attached to the two rocket boosters that look like rockets. And Diego can't help but stare at Seth's lips and think of how wondrous and intelligent sounding were the things that came out of them, and how nice they looked, just like the lips on this girl he knew in New York named Belinda Perez. And he kissed her on the last day of 5th grade, and she was smart too. And the place where the crew sits is called the orbiter, and it looks like a plane, and that's the only thing that comes back to Earth after the mission. Miss Yvonne laughs. I think you memorized the whole book. Seth grins, and Diego can tell he's embarrassed. How you know all that? By this point, Diego feels like there's no way he can't seem dumb in front of Seth. Seth shrugs his shoulders. Just reading. Dang. Diego, sorry, Miss Yvonne. By the time they reach the Space Center, Diego's eyes are wide, filled with the white, red, and blueness of the rockets they pass on the way to the launch viewing area. Seth's mother pulls the car onto a round area of pavement with 10 or 11 other cars, 2 miles of saltwater marsh separating them from the shuttle. Perched on the launch pad with whiffs of steam or smoke or something blowing out into the cold air, the shuttle sits under the shadow of a huge metal Star Wars type thing. Miss Yvonne can barely stop the car before both Seth and Diego hop out, alternately squinting and gawking like the kids on the hoods of the other cars. Look, Diego, you see it? Seth shouts, pointing at the thing. It looks small from back here, but it's really huge. The boy can see, child. Miss Yvonne shakes her head as she takes out a blanket from the trunk to place on the hood of the car. Here, sit on this. Diego wonders how big the shuttle really is. He knows Seth knows. He wonders if Seth's going to be an astronaut one day. He's smart enough. Diego and Seth climb onto the warm hood of the car. The heat keeps their backsides comfortable against the chill of the January day, and they sit close together, the nylon of their windbreakers whistling against each other and their jean-covered legs touching. Whenever he's with Seth, Diego forgets about the life he and Mommy left in New York, the life they'd had after Pops left. He likes Seth's closeness. Diego feels a stiffness in his underwear and is immediately ashamed. He moves over an inch to the right, cold air inserting itself between the two warm bodies. "You okay, D?" Seth asks. "Yeah," he says, annoyed at the question and his own annoyance and staring at the contraption on the far end of the marsh. Miss Yvonne hands Seth a brown paper bag and stands behind the open driver's side door. Before having to be told by his mother, Seth pulls out an orange and hands it to Diego. "We brought you an orange and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich." "Thanks," Diego says, truly grateful for the treat, but thinking about the $3 Mommy gave him to buy something for lunch on the way home. "But I got lunch money." "Nonsense, Diego," Miss Yvonne says. "You eat that and keep those $3 for tomorrow." "Yeah, D," Seth nods his head excitedly. "You can eat whatever I eat. Don't worry about it." Seth places his arm around Diego's shoulder, breaking the chill around him. Diego feels like he and Seth are becoming best friends, and he can't remember any best friend he had for more than one school year. He hopes Seth will be his best friend for a long time, since they live across the street from one another, after all, and since neither one of them has a Pops at home. The only difference is that Diego's Pops might come back one day. Seth's won't. Just then, a roar races across the marsh from the launch pad, and what looks to Diego like water rains on the shuttle from atop the gray metal structure surrounding it. Gasps and oohs and ahs escape everyone's mouths as they stand in wonder at the impending departure. Seth grabbing onto Diego's shoulder. "It's starting! It's starting!" A few seconds later, the rocket boosters thunder awake. The pavement, the cars, the marsh grass, Diego's eardrums, everything shakes as the shuttle lifts from the pad atop a plume of flame and smoke. The roar of the boosters vibrates in Diego's chest, and his heart rises along with the shuttle into the pale winter sky, the kind of hope that usually accompanies feats of the humanly impossible, of being an astronaut, of walking on the moon, of touching stars, flashing for a moment inside of Diego. And in the next moment, the shuttle flashes into a fiery cloud, the two rocket boosters propelling themselves in opposing spirals and the air popping with the sound of the disintegrating spacecraft. Miss Yvonne shouts and covers Seth's eyes with her hands, but she can't make it over to cover Diego's, and he silently watches the pieces of the orbiter and the fuel tank and the astronauts plunge into the Atlantic Ocean just like in a movie.